When The Time Machine hit theaters in 1960, audiences weren't just watching another sci-fi adventure, they were seeing the future come alive. Directed by George Pal, the visionary behind The War of the Worlds, it transformed H.G. Wells' novel into a Technicolor spectacle of brass, light, and imagination. On a tiny budget, Pal's team built one of the most iconic machines in film history and made time travel feel real. From oatmeal lava to teenage stars and lost sequels, The Time Machine is packed with hidden details and clever illusions. These are 16 weird facts about The Time Machine, the film that turned the future into Hollywood history. Number 1. The iconic prop that became a legend. The Time Machine itself wasn't just a set piece, it was a work of art. Built from wood, brass, and a giant rotating dish, it looked both Victorian and futuristic at once, like something H.G. Wells himself might have imagined. The brass plate engraved with H. George Wells was a clever inside joke, merging the names of author H.G. Wells and director George Pal into one. The machine's design took weeks of trial and error. The seat was borrowed from an old barber's chair, the dish inspired by a record player, and the glowing console filled with blinking lights scavenged from surplus stores. It wasn't just functional, it was sculpted with care, meant to feel like a time traveler's chariot. Audiences were captivated. It practically became a character of its own, and over time, fans around the world built replicas down to the last bolt. The original prop went on a journey worthy of its name, lost after production, later rediscovered, restored, and finally auctioned for a small fortune. Today, it remains one of the most beloved movie machines ever built, proof that imagination can make even brass and wood feel like magic.
If that machine can do what you say it can, destroy it. Destroy it, George, before it destroys you.
Number 2. The lava that was actually breakfast. When the time traveler witnesses London being swallowed by molten lava, it looks terrifyingly real. But that fiery destruction was nothing more than bubbling oatmeal. The effects crew mixed cooked oats with red dye, adding detergent and powdered clay to create texture and stretch. Under the studio lights, the mixture looked like glowing liquid rock. The concoction fermented over a few days, releasing steam and bubbles that gave it a disturbingly lifelike motion. Crew members joked that it smelled like a burned breakfast buffet, but it was too effective to replace. The camera crew had to work quickly before the lava spoiled. It began rotting under the heat. The result fooled audiences worldwide. It's a perfect example of early Hollywood's creative problem solving, turning something cheap and ordinary into one of the most unforgettable disaster scenes of its era.
You see, it's the last alert. Hurry, hurry.
No, but listen, this is important.
Look. Atomic satellite zeroing in. That's important. Come on, come on.
Number 3. The Oscar-winning illusion. The film's most jaw-dropping moment, time itself racing forward, was created entirely with camera tricks. George Pal and his effects team used stop-motion animation, layered exposures, miniature sets, and clever lighting to visualize centuries flashing by in seconds. Flowers bloomed and withered, mannequins changed outfits, and sunlight flickered across the house as the world evolved. Each short sequence required thousands of frames shot, with microscopic changes between them. Pal's background in stop motion from his Puppetoons days gave him the patience and precision to pull it off. Even the clouds you see drifting overhead were made by pouring milk through water tanks and filming in slow motion. When the film premiered, audiences gasped. No one had ever seen time rendered this way before. The innovation earned the movie the 1961 Academy Award for Best Special Effects, forever cementing its place as one of cinema's great visual breakthroughs. Number 4. $1 Million Miracle. The Time Machine looked like a major studio epic, but the entire production cost less than $1 million. Even in 1960, that was astonishingly low. George Pal stretched every dollar with meticulous planning. He reused sets from older MGM productions, redressed props from costume dramas, and relied heavily on miniatures and matte paintings instead of location shoots. The illusion worked beautifully. By combining layered backdrops and optical effects, Pal made small sets feel like vast worlds. He used fog to hide boundaries, camera movement to imply scale, and color grading to tie together old materials with new designs. That attention to craft turned budget constraints into creative opportunities. Instead of limiting the film, the tight finances gave it character, a handmade warmth that CGI could never replicate. Number 5. A 29-day dash through time. Most movies of the era filmed for months, but The Time Machine wrapped in just 29 days. The tight schedule meant every minute counted. George Pal organized production like clockwork, pre-planning every angle and prop movement long before the cameras rolled. The crew often filmed multiple scenes per day, jumping between the Victorian house set and the future world of the Eloi without pause. Actors rehearsed between setups to save precious hours. When light faded on one set, they'd rush to another. That discipline came from Pal's background in animation, where timing was everything. He knew exactly what the audience needed to see and what could be skipped. Against all odds, the cast and crew captured an epic that felt enormous, even though it was shot faster than most television shows of its time. Number 6. The teenage star from the future. Yvette Mimieux, who played the gentle Eloi woman Weena, was just 17 years old when cameras started rolling. MGM's casting department reportedly bent the rules to allow her to work under the radar. She was nervous but determined, bringing a sense of innocence that perfectly matched her character's childlike world. Mimieux had only a few small roles before this, yet she held her own beside veteran actor Rod Taylor. The two shared an easy chemistry that grounded the film's emotional core, making the story not just about time travel, but about human connection. By the time the film premiered, Mimieux had become a breakout star. Her ethereal presence helped define the Eloi's strange, dreamlike civilization and gave the future a human face audiences would remember for decades.
What are you doing? Why did you put your hand in the fire?
I never saw it before.
Number 7. How they fooled audiences with practical magic. The time machine's spinning disc, flashing lights, and shimmering effects looked futuristic, but the technology behind it was pure stagecraft. Beneath the seat, a small motor spun the massive dish, while electricians manually triggered colored bulbs through a hidden switchboard. To simulate speed, the crew used layers of smoke and wind machines. As the set brightened and dimmed, camera operators adjusted exposure in real time, creating the illusion of movement through centuries. When combined with clever sound design, ticking clocks, rising hums, whooshing winds, it felt like a trip through time itself. Audiences were mesmerized. They thought they were seeing advanced technology, but it was all mechanical magic. Timing, lighting, and imagination synchronized perfectly. We're halfway through, but the strangest secrets of the time machine are still ahead. From eerie Cold War symbolism to a museum that actually talks. If you're loving these hidden stories from classic sci-fi, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. That way you won't miss the next journey through forgotten movie history. Alright, let's step back into the machine and see what other mysteries time left behind. Number 8. The Secret of the Morlocks. The pale, glowing Morlocks terrified 1960 audiences, but the creatures were born from a mix of thrift and artistry. Designer Hua Chang, who would later create many of Star Trek's aliens and props, sculpted the masks by hand using latex, fiberglass, and bits of old costume foam. Inside the suits, stuntmen sweated through 12-hour days. The studio's intense heat made the fluorescent paint on their faces glow naturally, a side effect that looked so eerie PAL decided to keep it. Their screeches were layered from donkey brays, reversed laughter, and slowed-down screams, creating a nightmare chorus unlike anything heard before. Despite the discomfort, the performers gave the Morlocks their monstrous energy. They were crude, sweaty, and barely able to see, yet utterly unforgettable. Number 9. A museum that talks. When the time traveler discovers the Eloi's talking rings, it's one of the film's most haunting moments. The idea came straight from George Pal, who wanted a visual metaphor for humanity's lost wisdom. Each ring was carved, resin painted with metallic powder, then spun on a concealed record player while a voice track played. The monotone narration, delivered by an uncredited actor, was recorded to sound detached, as if history itself had lost emotion. The sequence became a standout piece of atmosphere, simple, poetic, and deeply unsettling. In just a few minutes, it said more about civilization's collapse than pages of dialogue ever could. Number 10. A hidden Cold War message. Beneath its colorful spectacle, the time machine hid a shadow of real-world fear. When the traveler stops in 1966 and sees London destroyed by atomic war, audiences instantly recognized the nightmare. It was the same anxiety they felt watching the news. PAL used smoke machines, flashing lights, and background sirens borrowed from Forbidden Planet's sound library to sell the illusion of nuclear chaos. The sequence was short but chilling, bridging the Victorian optimism of the novel with the Cold War dread of modern times. It was one of the earliest examples of a mainstream sci-fi film reflecting real global tension, reminding viewers that the future isn't guaranteed, and progress can just as easily lead to ruin. Number 11. The Backlot London. Every inch of London was an illusion. The cobbled streets, gas lamps, and shop windows were built on the MGM backlot in Culver City, just steps from sunny Los Angeles. PAL's crew recycled old sets from period dramas, repainting facades and rearranging storefronts to look authentically British. To capture the foggy atmosphere, they used dry ice machines and strategically placed mirrors to multiply the sense of depth. Matte paintings filled in skylines where the studio walls ended. Even the famous streetcar that passes in one scene was borrowed from another film and disguised with new signage. It's movie magic at its best. A Victorian England built from leftovers, filmed thousands of miles away from the real thing, yet completely convincing on screen. Number 12. The open-air dome trick. The Eloi world glows with warmth and sunlight, and that's because it literally had no roof. The futuristic dome sets were built outdoors to save on lighting costs. Cinematographer Paul Vogel scheduled scenes around the sun's movement, chasing the perfect golden hour glow. The crew even used mirrors to bounce light into shaded areas, creating that dreamlike brightness that makes the Eloi civilization look peaceful and surreal. When clouds rolled in, production paused. The light continuity had to stay exact between shots. What seems like an elaborate artificial paradise was, in truth, California weather and good timing. It's one of the simplest yet most effective lighting tricks ever captured on film. Number 13. The Time Machine's Many Lives. After filming ended, the time machine prop sat abandoned in a studio warehouse, collecting dust. By the 1970s, it was missing parts and half destroyed. The brass dish dented, the seat torn. Fans assumed it was gone forever until a collector named Bob Burns tracked it down and began a meticulous restoration. Every component was studied, repaired, and repainted to match the original MGM color palette. Even the glowing control panel was rebuilt using vintage bulbs and switches identical to those from the 1950s. Once restored, the prop toured conventions, museum exhibits, and fan events, drawing crowds of nostalgic movie lovers. It had truly become a time traveler, surviving decades of neglect to shine again in a new century. Number 14. The Unmade sequel. George Pal never gave up on the idea of a sequel. He envisioned a story where the time traveler returns to the future to rebuild civilization with Weena, blending romance and science in equal measure. Draft notes even mention a new race of beings and a rebuilt time machine powered by crystal energy. But the studio system was changing. MGM's priorities shifted toward musicals and big historical dramas, and Pal's passion projects were seen as too niche. His dream sequel lingered in notebooks and sketches, eventually fading with time, a fitting fate for a man obsessed with the passage of it. Fans still speculate on what that movie might have looked like, a bittersweet reminder that some journeys stay unfinished. Number 15. A symbol of sci-fi evolution. When the time machine arrived, science fiction was transforming. The 1950s had given us atomic beasts and alien invaders, but Pal's film aimed higher. It asked questions about humanity's destiny and responsibility, why we build, why we destroy, and what we leave behind. Critics later called it the bridge between pulp sci-fi and the thoughtful storytelling that defined the next 2 decades. Without the time machine, films like Planet of the Apes or 2001: A Space Odyssey might never have taken the same intellectual leap. It proved that even in an age of spectacle, the most powerful effect on screen could still be an idea. Number 16. The legacy that never stopped ticking. More than 60 years later, the echoes of the time machine can be found everywhere. Its visual design inspired the DeLorean's glowing circuits in Back to the Future, and the concept of time travel as a moral quest helped shape Doctor Who and the Terminator. The machine's look, brass, glass, and energy swirling in circles, became the cinematic language of time travel itself. Even modern directors have admitted borrowing from Pal's visuals when depicting alternate eras or temporal jumps. Few props or ideas in Hollywood have traveled so far. From studio warehouse to pop culture icon, the Time Machine continues to prove that great imagination never truly grows old. The Time Machine, 1960, wasn't just another sci-fi adventure. It was a glimpse of what the genre could become. Made with imagination instead of money, it blended wonder, fear, and hope into a single journey that still feels timeless. George Pal's vision proved that even without spaceships or aliens, science fiction could explore the biggest question of all: what happens to humanity in the end? Every spin of that golden machine was a step toward the future of storytelling itself. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden stories, make sure to subscribe, because the next trip through classic cinema's strangest corners might just be your favorite one yet.